Alright, so we finished up on this side, so we're ready to spin around and get to working on the other side. So same deal, we got everything set up. It's just time to move around here. Like I say, I already had this cover off because I cleaned it. So all we got to do is take all these bolts loose. That comes off, and then the oil filter sits down inside of there. We already had that off. Yeah, we just need to get a screwdriver, and right here on this pry area, you can kind of push against it a little bit and get it to loosen up without damaging the seal. And off comes the side cover. Just make sure your seal is still good right there. And we will set this aside. It's over here. We got all our clutches, and you can see I was missing a bolt from my clutches. But I have a backup set, so we'll pull these clutches off. So as they come out, I'm just going to set them down here and stack them back up. Don't forget this little bearing right here. So normally I'm going to take this off. This is the plunger that goes to the other side. So we're going to take that off with that little bearing, and we're going to set it right down inside of there. And you can see this nut's loose. I've had this pack off. So if you're taking the clutch off, we're going to split this motor in half. So if you're taking the clutch off, you'd have to loosen this one up. So you have to push the little clips back and then loosen this up, which I've already done. So you just have to get a wrench and get on it. Put that right there, and then it's got its little keeper. Put that right down there. Now we're ready to pull the center off. And you can see the other clutches come with it. So what I'll do is just stack all this back up. That way, and then the nut, and then that pin, and then the whole set. And then that little thing rides on the inside right there with that washer. There's a washer right here too. So the little washer goes on top of the roller bearings. It all gets centered up, and then that way we don't lose anything. And then we just push them back to the middle. And there we go. So now it's all held together. I'm going to set it to the side. So now this little washer comes off, and we'll put him on top. We'll just keep everything stacked up. And that should be it. So now, with all of that off, the whole pack comes off. Gear and all. So there we go. So there's our whole clutch body. And so that can stack right up on top of this whole assembly. We'll just set it on top of it like that. Okay, so all of that's together. Should just assemble right back the way it was. I'm going to keep that standing up there. So we'll rebuild this shortly. Okay, so not a whole lot left over here. I'm not going to take the gearing system apart because it seems to be working well. But I do want to split this thing in half and make sure that my rod bearings are good. So at this point, we still got to take all of this off so we can pull the casing off of it. And so we'll get set up and do that here in just a minute. All right, so I was inspecting my clutch, and as you can see, when I took it off, that back plate there where it's been sitting for so many years, it's got rust where the clutch was sitting. So I don't know, some people might try to just put it together and let it clean it up, but I don't think those friction discs like rust very much. But I got my other one over here, and as you can see, it's not as rusty. It's got some spots, but I need to clean that up and get it smooth again. So all I do is just take a piece of Scotch-Brite right here, get a piece of Scotch-Brite, and just get some grease and put it on the Scotch-Brite. That way you're cleaning as you're greasing. And just take it, and you can see right here, I've already done that part. So all you do is just take your Scotch-Brite and rub it on it and smooth all that rust back down. And that'll be ready, be good for the clutches. So for each of these intermediates, if they're showing any signs of that, I'll probably just hit them with the Scotch-Brite, knock that off there, and then we'll be good to go for this rebuild. All right, so the next stop on splitting this case in half so we can reseal the case in the center is getting this off. So we got to get the main crank off, and then we can pull everything apart. But to do that, before we get try to getting that big nut off, as you can see, the pistons rotate real easy, and so we want to protect those pistons. So you could probably put some boards or something under here or something like that, but I'm going to go ahead and set the jugs back on. That way I don't worry about messing up those pistons by bottoming them out or something. So let's get our heads back. So this is our number one head. Remember, we marked it with a little dot right there. So we're on the back side. So this is number one. And what I'm going to do is, just since this motor hadn't been run, I'm going to get me some assembly lube. And we're going to lube up the bore. I got to take these back off anyway. But this is just to help out with not damaging those pistons. So we got our assembly lube in there. I'll just run that right down to the edge. Get that thing slicked up. And it's got a nice little taper on it, so shouldn't be too much of an issue to get this back in there. Hook our timing chain back up over here because it's got to go through the hole. So let's go ahead and get that set up. Chain guide gets stuck. Yeah, got the chain guide out, the chain out. I'm going to work our way on down a little bit. Little by little. Get our cylinder back on. There's another wire. Let's go over here and do the same thing. Okay, so we're ready to start taking that big nut off. So this side with the split gear works the same way as the other side. All we got to have is, what you can do, there's two little dots, so you want to put these back the way they are when you put it back together. But there's a little dot there and a little dot there. What that allows is room for a drill bit up in the top corner up there. So all we want to do is split this split gear, move it so we can get our drill bit to lock in there. Find a place to do it. Doesn't move the motor. So just twist the split gear. Put that in there. What that does is gives you a little bit of play between those gears. So when you get ready to pull that one off, it'll come off there without that split gear popping. And then we'll also leave that in there until we get ready to put that gear back together. Okay, so we're ready to start pulling some things loose. So we got to knock this piece out right here. So you can get a screwdriver or a chisel, or we can't put it back on it. Okay, so that's the only one. There's nobody else. Now we just got to get that big old blood off. So let me go get some tools. We'll get set up and pull that off. All right, so we are ready to try to get this nut off. So as you can see, I put my little mark on there to line up the orientation of it, because it's on there pretty tight and we want to get it back to about the same spot it was before. All right, so we are back to get this big old nut off here. And you probably don't have one in your toolbox, maybe you do, but you need a 36 millimeter. So I had to run to the store to get a 36 millimeter socket. So what I want to do is keep the thing from rotating too much. I'm gonna stick a towel in the gears right there and kind of lock it down so those gears don't want to move. And then maybe I can hit that with this guy and rat-a-tat-tat it up there. Let's see if we can knock this guy off here. And there we go. Easy as that. So, okay, so we got the nut loose. And we can take our towel back out. So we just have to rotate it around and get our towel back out. There we go. And now we're ready to pull this gear train off here. So let me get it set up here. Let me get that in there. There we go. Now we got our gears separated, so we can take our nut off. Take a big nut off. And we take our locking plate. And you can see this has a little locator for that keyway. And so I got a mark right up above that, so I know that goes back on. And then the nut is going to line back up to there. Once I put everything back together, I should have the torque about the same. So I'll take the keeper off. And I'll take that collar off. All right, so we got the big nut off. And that was really the only reason why we wanted to put the jugs back on, was just to protect the piston. And so we're going to take those jugs back off. There we go. And that guy right there fell off. He goes around the back side there. Now, in order to not have this whole mechanism come apart on us, what we want to do is take this gear out or up anyway. Like I say, I got the drill bit in it, so it's not going to spring. So I just want to take this loose. I'm probably going to put Loctite on that. Take the little keeper off, and then you can just slide, get that black thing out of the way. You just slide this out, and then the gear will come up. So now we got the gear up out of the way, and then once we pull all this out, we'll be able to take the gear out. So right now it won't come out with the drill bit stuck in there, but it will come up for us. We want it up in that kind of position there, and then that's going to allow us to pull this gear set out. If you try to pull the little one off, it's got those springs and things behind it. And so you want to get this set off together. So that's why we picked this gear up. And then now what we got to do is get these gears to come out. Sometimes they're kind of stuck on there. So we're going to take something, slips behind it, and kind of get it moving. I'm going to gingerly push on it, just to kind of get it moving off that shaft. It's been on there for a while. And there you go. So these come off together. Like I say, inside of there is those little springs and little pins. So we want to keep all of that nice and together. And now all we got to do is get this little pin out of there. So without messing up your threads, you just want to wiggle it free. At this point, we don't have anything behind this that we have to worry about. And so we can drop this gear back down and just set it back in place. And then it'll come apart when we take it apart. So let's plop that back down in there. And there we in. And you could even put the retaining clip back on it if you wanted to. Okay, so there's everything off this side that needs to come off. So at this point, we should be able to pull the case apart. And so I'm going to flip it up on the other side. There's some bolts on the back side that's got to come off. I'll take the oil level sensor off, and then we'll be ready to pull this case up this way. All right, so we'll get set up for that, and hopefully we can split this thing in half.